the fact that you do have mismatches in both the mid and jungle on the side of A20 means that it's very easy for them to try and abuse some of those individual plays and get solo kills. On the side of Dream Team, they do have the top laner, who is probably more comfortable in the role, and as you saw last time, he was getting a big CS lead and actually ended up picking up several of those kills despite being on Ornn. So I might like to see him on a bit more of a carry this game. And there's the Jarvan ban coming out into A20 to prevent them from doing the same thing again. I am going to go ahead and update these scores real quick. If you'll bear with me for one moment, A201. And we're going to swap them around since the sides have switched, in fact. Alright. Anyway, we're back into Samuel X. That's the Sejuani and Jarvan bans coming down on the side of Dream Team. Thresh and Shen from the other side, and the Jace ban stays. I think that's probably something they want to prevent the other team's top laner from getting, seeing as he has proven to be a bit of a bullion lane. That's a Xayah look-in from the side of Dream Team immediately. It was banned away from them in the last game by none other than themselves, so it's interesting to see that they opted for it this time. Yeah. I think if we think back to the fight around Rift Herald, the Rakan was able to get a very effective engage onto the Kog'Maw and Morgana from the side of A20, but I don't think it was really enough, especially given that he was underleveled and hadn't gone for the sensor build at that point. Oh, and I saw a Kled hover a moment ago. I would actually really like to see Horizon hop onto that champion or something like it to try and push in his advantage on the lane, but it looks like they may stick him on the Poppy to try and be the front line that they may need for the Xayah. One interesting thing about Poppy is the fact that her W, Steadfast Presence, cancels the Rakan engage, as well as his E's. And since neither Janna or Lulu went banned or picked in the last series, it looks like Dream Team may be trying to take a lesson from that and go for a slightly more conventional Ardent support themselves, because although the Rakan did work, it doesn't provide the same sort of disengage, and they may be thinking about how to survive the early game a bit better in this case, and Janna certainly provides that. Yeah. I do like the draft adaptation from both sides. It looks like, surprisingly, A20 is going to take the Gragas away from the side of Dream Team, despite the fact that they've already locked in the Lee Sin. I might have favored a slightly more proactive jungler, since they do seem to have an advantage on that early game, and a Rek'Sai would provide a lot more early snowballing presence for their lanes. Yeah. Again, I like the Cinder ban coming out in from the side of A20 to prevent them from getting a more advantageous matchup in the mid lane, since Corki did not seem like a problem for Orianna to deal with. And there you go. There's the Twitch that you suggested coming out. I think that actually would have been a better ban than the Tristana, simply because Twitch is a mobile, but has several shields on him and spikes earlier, and that combined with his invisibility and ability, and how that allows him to flank, means that it gives a lot more pressure to their bot lane once they get out of laning phase. Tristana is perhaps a bit easier to deal with, since her DPS isn't quite as sustained, and so much of her power is loaded into the explosive cost or explosive charge and ult. And there's the Kled that we were looking at earlier, locked in on the top lane for Horizon on the side of Dream Team. I'm excited to see this champion. I always really enjoy watching his engages from odd angles of the map. And really good Kled players know how to juggle their aggro and their abilities in the fight to remount as quickly as possible, because that can be a huge swing. If A20 decide to focus a bunch of abilities and damage onto the top laner, and then he gets a significant portion of his health back with Scar returning, that can totally change the tide of a fight. He also provides a strong ability to get onto the backline and maybe shut down the Twitch a bit. That's a Gnar. I think this is actually a good matchup. No, that looks... If they go for the Maokai, I think that this actually... Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like the Gnar is a much better pick, especially given the fact that despite the fact that they want to protect the Twitch in this composition, the Gnar allows for some extra CCing combo potential with the Gragas and Orianna, and is a much more favorable matchup into the Kled. What I do see going on here is the fact that um, with the Jarvan banned away, it's going to be a little bit harder for them to orchestrate the Maokai teleport in, since you can't do it on the Lance anymore. And I am positive you can't teleport onto a Gragas barrel. So, with that in mind, I agree that they're going to be trying to play around the bot side since it worked so well last time. And with Rakan adding sustain with his heal to Twitch, who sometimes lacks it in the lane, I think we're looking at a really even matchup from in the bot lane without jungler intervention, but because Rakan provides engage potential, and Gragas has the CC that Lee Sin doesn't in the early levels, if they want to go aggressive, they certainly have the potential to do so. I do like the fact that we see a much more proactive early game comp from the side of Dream Team in this game, because seeing as they got smashed a bit there while waiting to scale, giving them some more tools to react and play proactively at the beginning means that they may be able to equalize stuff or even push an advantage of their own before A20 gets snowballing with the switch with this Orianna. Lucian has the advantage of being able to dodge out some of the Orianna poke in the mid lane, despite the fact that his E is on a longer cooldown than the Q from Ori initially. He may be able to get some aggressive trades and force her into playing a little bit more safely, seeing as the Lee can deliver that extra damage to finish a kill there. Alright, so we have another 30 seconds or so before we get into game. With that in mind, I think that actually the best thing the Sin can do in the early game is try to play around the Kled, because Maokai, despite being a tank and having his passive, does not have a lot of options in the early game. And especially if he pushes out and tries to contest CS, Lee Sin can definitely go up there and make stuff happen. The other thing is that with Kled's dismount ability, a tower dive, even against a Maokai, is a more profitable endeavor because he can juggle aggro more effectively in this by doing some damage, backing off, letting the Kled take the aggro and then dismount, at which point he can get out safely and Lee can finish the kill. Yeah, concert was phenomenal today. It was sort of a... God, how do I describe it? Yeah, it's bluegrass, traditional music and everything. Really enjoyable. So I'm glad I got to do that. You bet. Alright, one moment. My stream just got wildly thrown. There we go. Alright, and looks like we are loading into game just now. Alright, as both teams are getting ready to load onto the Rift again, let's hope that we have a bit closer game than last time, simply for the sake of entertainment, with Drêam Team looking to come back and take a win against A20 after a very convincing victory for their opponents in Game 1. Alright, we see a pretty standard 5-man fan coming out from both sides in this early game as they attempt to make sure that nobody tries any cheese or invades across the river. Looks like Maha hasn't leveled anything yet. Kled is of course going for the Q. Alright, we're seeing vision pings coming down to this ward in the Tribush top lane. They know it's done. I believe this is Maokai's trinket. Yes, it has to be. So that's not actually going to be up for the very early levels in the game. He'll get it back probably around 4 minutes, just in time to maybe suss out the Lee Sin gank. We're seeing a red start coming in from Gragas on the top side. It looks like he's only going to miss one melee creep in the top lane as a result of that. And that is an enormous amount of damage. I'm going to back up just a little bit and see what was going on. It looks like... Here we go. Yeah, the giant just walked forward, he got caught by the Rakan, and took a bunch of damage from the Twitch. That was the Ignite burned on the side of the Rakan to try and get through, but the shield and the heal come in just in time to save her. Alright, jumping back to present. Yeah, with that, Janna's going to be able to sustain up by eating 2 of her 3 pots, but that's a big advantage in terms of wave control for the side of A20, which, given what we were talking about pressuring the Janna early with the Ignite, is going to put them in a really good place to keep putting pressure on the spot lane. In the mid lane, we're looking at a lot of damage still coming out from the Orianna, and wow, alright, that's a counter gank from the Lee Sin, who's getting onto Ori, and actually forces a flash out of her. Shield going onto the Gragas to try and prevent any damage back, and Tails is out of mana, which means that his ability to trade with Orianna is going to be significantly limited. She's also running low, but she has a little bit more health to work with. You're looking at a CS deficit of 8 already in the lane, which is not too much, and certainly is better than the last game, but given that Lucian's strength early is perhaps his biggest advantage, if they can't get a better matchup then, I'm not quite sure how they're hoping to snowball the lane. On the... Yeah, we see Kled winning pretty hard, as would be expected from the matchup. But Maokai isn't doing too poorly for himself, considering that he's being shoved in, and Maokai isn't too hard to farm under tower with, because of the Qs having a fairly low cooldown in the early game. If he heads back here, a Bramble Vest, despite the cost being increased, isn't ever a bad pickup per se, even now when you're dealing with an all-AD comp, because it also nullifies some of the Lee Sin damage. Gragas heading back into the bot river, trying to pick up the Scuttle Crab most likely. Maokai's going to use his teleport topside, which does mean that there's a little bit less threat of an all-in in the bot lane as we go forward. At this point, though, I think it's the right choice, because staying even in items and trying to get some sort of parity with the Kled is good. Tanks also need less gold to remain efficient in the mid-game, so if he can get the Bramble Vest, especially as we mentioned, because it's an all AD comp coming out of Drêam Team, he's still not going to lose too much effectiveness. Lee Sin coming towards the bot side, he's pretty low, so I think he's just going to recool instead of trying to go for a gank here. Maybe he should be trying to respond. Gragas is also sneaking into the bot brush, maybe going to go for a lane gank here. The heal from Janet is almost back up in just a few seconds, so they're going to have that available if Gragas stalls too much longer. Lee Sin's still here, going around the side onto Twitch, and this could go horribly wrong. I think Lee's just dead here. Yep, knocked up, and that's first blood coming in for the side of A20. Good route from the side of Drêam Team from the Xayah to shut down any further engage, and Kled having safe TP comes in useful there as they're able to prevent A20 from going any more aggressive onto them. But that was a really unfortunate attempt from Lee to make a gank, given that the Gragas was already there at full health. That's what I thought. I'm going to keep looking at a trade from the top side as Kled pokes in with his passive on the W, and he is hit back into tower range by the Maokai, who might actually be able to do something here. I think given his cooldowns being down, he's not going to try for too much, but Kled should watch out since they don't have vision on the Gragas at the moment. Yeah, bot lane trade coming out even more aggressively now that they know they have some sort of advantage. That's an Ignite going down from the Rakan. And while they were almost able to trade the kill back onto the Twitch, I feel like Drêam Team is still getting the worst end of this, because having the shields from the Janna is just not the same as the heals coming out from the Rakan, especially because he is already proven to be not afraid to go for these aggressive trades and posturing. This may be the case. If we look at the top side, Lee Sin was sitting in the lane, perhaps hoping for some sort of counter gank onto the Maokai, but both of them seem to have recalled at this point. Because Kled cancelled his teleport, he's not going to be too far behind in terms of map pressure momentum against the Maokai if anything goes on. Gragas has been power farming a bit more heavily than the Lee Sin has, despite the early death bot and for Lee, which is understandable. And so Lee's going to really want to catch up and try to get 6 as quick as possible to be relevant in this mid game, because otherwise they risk being shoved out simply the way they were the last game. See a ping going down onto Dragon from the side of A20. God, almost said H2A. Looks like Rakan's going to see Lee Sin here as they go for a bit of clearing on the wards. Not immediately. Give me one moment. Yeah, apologies for the brief interruption. It came to my attention that I had totally bungled the audio, and I'm going to need to fix that. Right, so at this point, the one regrettable thing is that if I have it set up so that the audio is coming through for the stream, then I can't hear you, which is not exactly the desired outcome either. So I'm going to hop back in here just so that I can hear what you're saying. This is definitely a bug on my end of what I was saying about hoping to get the audio back for next time. All right, so we see an explosive cast and a recount engage from the bot lane onto the Janna, who uses the Howling Gale to try and disrupt, and that's a good ult. Clegg gets dismounted, but he is out of the way on this, and despite the Lee Sin coming in, he's going to get knocked up and knocked down. Lee flashes behind them, maybe looking for a kick, but he hits it onto Twitch at a weird angle, and he is totally zoned out of the fight. I don't think he's going to be able to W out in time, especially with the lockdown coming from the other two, and that is, despite a really good Xayah ult, a huge, huge swing in favor of A20. This will likely be first turret because I don't think Janna, even with her shield, can do much about it, and they have another wave coming. Rakan is recalling, but with Maokai and Gragas here, and red buff on the Maokai, that's going to be a lot of damage coming down to the turret over time. And that's a flash body slam from Gragas, and Janna is just going to get knocked out again. And is that going to be a kill onto the Twitch? Yes. All right, so Janna trades a kill back onto Twitch, which is actually extremely valuable in this case, because shutting him down is going to significantly limit their ability to push onto the tower, and I'm not sure they're actually going to be able to get it at this point, with Kled coming down to the bot lane to try and answer as well. It's interesting to see the fact that this is a 4-0 Maokai at the moment, which, despite the fact that it gave him Tabas and some other early advantages, isn't particularly useful in terms of snowballing them. However, despite the fact that we have a 20 CS, or in addition to that, we have a 20 CS lead in the bot lane for the Twitch, and given these 1-1 and 4, with the BF Sword and Azeel completed already, and 2 more daggers as he's going towards the Hurricane, that looks very effective. More trades going on in the river as Dream Team are attempting to go onto the Drake. It's a Mountain Drake, which assists them in maybe some of that objective. Kled is dismounted. Maokai gets behind him and knocks him out, and that's an extremely good Kled engage. They walked into the W, and that's 2 kills for the Ori and 1 for the Twitch, as well as a free Mountain Drake. This is quickly snowballing out of control on the side of Dream Team. While not perhaps quite as dramatic as the beginning we had last game, and while the towers are still standing on both sides, that's 8-1 and a almost 4k gold lead. Looks like Dream is actually going to be able to trade the top lane turret before Maokai gets here in response for the bot lane one, which is at least good for them in terms of trying to keep some sort of parity. But the other 3 are going to recall very quickly, and that's going to be a reset coming through on the side of A20. And Ori's in the river roaming up. If they try to go for the Rift Herald or anything else, I think they're going to be spotted out. One interesting thing to note is that if you think about the bot lane fight earlier, Dream Team were positioning more respectfully around this bot lane turret than they were the last time and had some defensive vision, but their players just weren't there to counter when Gragas went in. Alright, Dream Team hovering around mid lane, perhaps trying to make some sort of collapse onto this Orianna, but A20 are responding, giving the red buff to the Twitch and bringing all 5 members to the mid lane. Howling Gale used to try and peel off the Maokai, but he sidesteps it. Kled is shoving out and in full vision. Yeah, that's 5 people mid on the side of A20, and with a full wave stacked up, I think they're just going to be able to force down this mid turret without much contest on the side of Dream Team. They bring Lee Sin up, but he's only level 6 to the level 8 from Gragas, and since he doesn't have any meaningful tank stats at the moment, I'm really not quite sure how they're planning on doing anything. That's 2 there, and Janna's just caught out and blown up, standing on the middle of 2 wards, and that looks like it's going to transition into a free Rift Herald for A20. Alright. Scar's Bloom goes out, and they're going to try to clear out some of these wards and contest the blue buff, giving it to the Orianna, which is a huge thing in this matchup because Lucian has been sort of perpetually out of mana in lane this entire game, and shutting down even more resources from both the jungler and the mid laner of Dream Team is just going to make sure they don't get any foothold to get back into this game. Forcing a flash out from the Janna, she's caught again. Explosive cast knocks her back, but they aren't going to be able to go any further onto it. Seeing as we're looking at... And Orianna walking into the middle of 4 people from Dream Team. Bit of a questionable pathing choice there. And Kaleido going down top lane to try and punish this. Gragas looks like he's going to be cut out too. And knocked down. The Maokai is finishing the teleport in, despite the fact that they're going into 3v5. Guess they want to take it. That's a Xayah ult coming on that roots up too, but the damage from the Twitch is just so much at this point. And the remount that I was talking about coming in, but he just cannot get onto this Twitch. And, oh, okay. That does such, but Janet just isn't going to be able to do anything here, and that looks like we may be looking at a pentakill for the Twitch, if you can get in there. Yeah, and that's a pentakill from the Twitch. Nice work. Maokai doing all of the hard work of... With the double buff still on Twitch as he's healing up slightly, they're going to be able to knock down the top lane turret with this one last auto, and while I don't think they're going to be able to shove any further, we're now looking at a 7k gold lead just about for the side of A20. 4-0 and 8 on this Maokai. His map presence has been really impressive this game, and as a result, he's going straight for the Righteous Glory, which I think is a good choice here to just try and push the engage onto the side of Dream Team. With the Lee Sin kick, the Xayah ult, they have some disengage, but they just aren't going to be able to do much against the point-and-click root from Maokai, and the incredible amount of damage Twitch is going to be pushing out with the Hurricane and the Infinity Edge already finished in addition to the Berserker's Greaves. I do want to see A20 try and put out a little bit more vision since they had done a really good job with that earlier, and as we see Gragas putting down some more wards in the bot side, we're looking at them shoving in and trying to put some more pressure on this mid lane tier 2. A20 have grouped up as 5 in this situation to try and put more damage onto this. Given that it's already been forced low, I don't think there's really much Dream can do. And there we go. Lucian steps just a little bit too far forward and gets blasted. Maokai ult comes out too to try and do stuff in Janet in response. But Twitch is just free firing with the ult, and she is down as well. Double kill again for this Twitch. He is supremely fed in this matchup, and they're rotating bot lane to try and push out this wave and get a second tier 2. All of this... Just like last game, I think this may be a game where taking the Baron isn't even going to be an option, given that it's 17 minutes in and we're already seeing pressure onto all of the inner turrets of Dream Team, and they can't really do much to contest safely. Not only do they not have the vision, they just don't have the stats to be able to get to Twitch and survive in these fights long enough for their DPS to do anything. Looking at the Inferno coming in and, oh, almost with the Drake resetting, that was almost going to be his deal for the Janna with the Hurricane. But with the Inferno on top of the Mountain Drake, all of these, this ability to push and also the buff to the combat stats for a team that's already so far ahead is going to be really impactful as this goes on. At this point, I anticipate them just shoving out the lanes, and since none of the members of Dream Team can really push in response or try to do anything for lack of vision, this is A20 establishing another really strong chokehold on this game. Dream Team were trying to respond by going to the mid lane, but that's just another spray and pray coming out from the Twitch and just blasting everyone. He does get taken out on the backside, but that's still 2 members down on the side of Dream Team in response for just him. Flash comes out from the Maokai, but the root comes in from Dream just in time to prevent the twisted advance onto her. Orianna was not in the best position for that fight to be able to shield, but despite all of this, with the bot lane pushing all the way to the inhibitor turret, I don't think Dream Team is going to be able to make almost anything of that pick. Since Baron hasn't come up yet, that's not necessarily the worst thing they could be doing. It would have been better if they'd been able to force down the turret first, but as it was, it feels like that was still perhaps a little bit over-optimistic for them to go all in on that trade. What I'd like to see them do is try to clear out some of the vision. They have 2 pink wards down on the top side, which does mean that since that's the place where they have the last inner turret standing, it's where they're most likely to be able to contest some sort of push in. So I do like this attempt to play to their outs, as it were, from the side of Dream Team, and with Kled pushing in the bottom lane, trying to split pressure, they may be trying to stall a bit more effectively than they were before. Requan and Twitch still in the mid lane. Grouping up 3, maybe going for this classic 1-3-1, but Orianna appears to be coming back towards the mid lane. Dream Team do have vision on her. Gets to the bot lane. Yeah, we're still looking at an 80 CS advantage for the Kled, who's finished Cleaver and a Tiamat. But with the Maokai already having finished the Randuins on top of the Righteous Glory, I don't think that that advantage is going to mean much once they get into a 5v5 situation. Interesting blast code from the side of A20 as they look to maybe set up some vision towards this Baron. And that's 2 people onto the Gragas, but with his Courage of the Colossus and the amount of damage that they're putting out, that is another spraying prey coming out from the Twitch, and Lucian going forward to aggressively ult, but the damage from the Twitch is just too much with another Contaminate coming out. Blue buff stolen away, and looks like they're going to try and at least force this last remaining inner turret down. Teleport coming in to contest the Kled ult. Orianna barriers just in time to avoid getting caught, and wow, that Rakan engage just demolishes the remaining members of Dream Team. Gragas probably going to go down to turret, but no, they shuffle a little aggro just effectively enough, and the Redemption coming down is going to get them back to full as they shove in for the Inhibitor turret. Since this is only 21 minutes into the game, we are looking at death timers being relatively short in the time of Dream Team, so I don't necessarily know if A20 want to contest any more of this. Gragas is going to tank the turret for them to all get out, and at this point, they can even take Baron without resetting, seeing as they already have all of the topside vision control except for this one ward in the bush up top. But it doesn't look like they're going to opt for it. Instead, maybe going for a recall or trying to take away as much of the jungle as they can on the bot side. A20 opting to go for a slightly more controlled approach to closing the game out since they know they have the vision. And at this point, waiting for Dream Team to try and extend if they want to contest the Baron or shove the wave out at all means that they're just going to be locked into a situation where there's no real options for them that end pleasantly. Janna's gone all the way up to try and reestablish some vision on the Baron, and it's a valiant effort. But at this point, with an 11k gold lead again, and where we're looking at a Bramble Vest on the Maokai, Locket finished on Gragas, and so many damage items on both of the carries. That's a Murlows and Liandry's coming out for the Ori along with the Sork Boots, and 3 full items for the Twitch with the pickup of the Static Shiv to the Xayah with just the Essence Reaver. I don't think there's any way that Dream Team are going to be able to cut through the front line. Righteous Glory coming down, and oh my goodness, that Janna just explodes. Ult isn't going to do much, and a flash over the wall puts her straight into the Gragas, who takes her out. That's likely going to end up being Baron for A20, as Kled is still pushing in the bot lane, and while his teleport is up, it's going to take some sort of miracle play for them to get in and steal it. Kled is quite likely going to be able to drop this this bot lane inner turret, and with that lane pushing, it's going to slow their shove down onto the other inhibitor a little bit more. But despite that, I just don't think there's really much they can do to prevent A20 from walking it in either top or mid and trying to end the game. Drake is up in 15 seconds, and it is another Infernal, so this can only help A20's stats as they look to close this out. But right now they're just shoving onto the mid lane as Maokai is going to contest the bot lane. He does not, in fact, have teleport up at this moment, with the Janna just eating so much poke from Orianna with almost no damage back in response. I'm not quite sure. And that was a huge crit from the Twitch onto Lucian, chunking him down with only 2 autos. Looks like A20 are going to back out after taking the inhibitor, satisfied to just go for the Infernal at this point in the game. Twitch itself maybe looking for a pick onto this Lee Sin, who I don't think can do anything, and with the Rakan ult W coming out, that's just one more dead on the side of Dream Team. Infernal comes down as well. With Twitch stealth again, I think Lucian's going to die here. There's really nothing he can do despite the Hexdrinker just blocking some of the magic damage from the poison. With Baron buff still active for another while on all members of A20, it looks like they may just try to push in an int here. They do have two people in the bot lane pushing in that slowly, but despite the fact that that might not seem like the wisest idea if you're trying to end quickly, the fact that three members in the mid lane still have so much damage, and oh, that's a catch onto Twitch, but it's not going to matter as the redemption comes down, and he just burns through the bot lane of Dream Team entirely. Rakan going to get caught out on the side, and Xayah surprisingly lives through all of that burst, going to force the Twitch off as he drops on the back end to the Kled. Maybe a bit over-aggressive from the side of A20, thinking that they can take the 3v2 under Nexus turrets, but that is going to result in the bot lane inhibitor and turret falling as well. So in the end, that's still a positive trade for them, as Orianna looks to burst. Lucian brings out the culling. Maokai is... That's an interesting call from... Alright, so we're looking at a little bit of damage. The Kled ult, or the Kled remount coming in, but it's just not going to be enough, despite the fact that we're only looking at the two tanks on the side of A20 doing the fight. It still looks like they're going to be able to do stuff. This is where that full AD comp that we talked about is really coming back to hurt us, as they weren't able to get ahead in the early game. The itemization on the side of A20 is just so efficient, and with the Baron buff still on these two and supers and other minions stacking up in the base, that's going to be a very clean end to game 2. A little bit longer than the last one by about 5 minutes, but I don't think there's really much that we can say other than that was a smash. GG to everyone involved, and we're going to get a little bit more of a perspective from players on both sides, how they felt it went, shortly. Alright, yeah, we're going to take a look at... Yeah, in both games we've seen absolutely insane numbers from the AD carry of A20. I'd really like to know if if Dream had any idea what he was capable of going up against him. But that's a really valiant effort in both games, first on the Ornn and then on the Kled from the top laner of Dream Team to try and trade back some things. And he's been doing a lot of work in the top lane matchup, and as we saw last game, capable of split pushing, getting 2 turrets on the bite side all by himself while A20 are occupied with Baron. Yeah, right on accounts there. All right, and that's a clean win coming out for A20. We're gonna take one moment and then try to get back in here for a bit of a chance to interview people from these two teams and get an idea of what was going through their heads as they played those games. Actually, if you want to take care of some of that because the audio will come through properly in that case, I'll get that rigged real quick. Okay. Settings. Okay.
All right. Just give me like 7-Eleven or some shit. If you're going there for beer, just what do you usually get? All right, cool. He's back. All right. They got that on video. Cool. All right. Anyway, so with that first game, it looked like you guys didn't have very much map control, and I was just wondering what was going on in comms for that game.
Our first game, our comms were really quiet, like unusually quiet. I was playing on a pick I wasn't used to. We had no idea how these guys played, so I really feel like we committed a bit of hubris by not trying to ward properly, and we played very, very not even reactive, even worse than reactive. I don't even know what's worse than reactive. Like we just basically allowed them to steamroll us. That first game.
It seemed like they had so much map control, and it was just the jungler, the Jarvan was everywhere in that first game, and it was just so hard for you guys to respond. Did you guys think? I saw that in the second game the J4 was actually banned out. Were you guys looking to pick up that Xayah Rakan combo? Because I did see the Xayah for first pick.
We weren't exactly hoping on it. We knew that since we're blue side, once we pick the Xayah, Rakan is guaranteed to go. No one wants to give that combo over.
Right.
But if we did get it, it might have been different. Rakan did get a lot of good engages to save the Twitch in the second game. So there's just some things that we didn't really work on or talk about coming into this game. Like we were really unprepared. This roster that we just played with hasn't played at all with each other.
That was my next question. I was going to ask how long you guys have been playing.
We literally just set up this comp like literally this morning.
Wow.
And maybe last night barely. Like this morning was when we solidified it. So
well, there are definitely some positives to take out from these games. Your top laner performed really well in both games, despite the advantages on the other side. So I would say, he did really well. I think that the second game there was definitely improvement on vision and having control wards placed on the map. So what other things are you guys looking to improve moving forward?
I think our individual skill, like personally, my individual skill is lacking. I haven't played. I'm not playing as I used to. I don't play as I used to. If I was still in my prime, I probably would have done a lot better in my lane. I probably would have been tossed around game one. I would have been so passive game two. I just haven't been in my prime for 2 years. I'm gonna be honest. I haven't played at the peak at what I used to. So
I can understand that. I'm a former Masters player now. I'm washed up plat, so I can feel that on a spiritual level.
Yeah, I think our individual skill is still okay, but our team play overall, like anything that's team related, we're really lacking in. We have very weak communication. We don't take initiative as a team. And you saw when we dove the Twitch in mid lane, that was a team dive. It was a 2-for-1, but we that was our first real time we talked and said, okay, we're gonna dive right here. And then when we fought top lane, the 4v5, that was also the first time we actually said, okay, let's Horizon go to teleport, ult. That's like the few times we actually communicated. This is slow improvement. I think we actually did better than what happened with Gucci Gang, but at the same time, it's still very embarrassing that we got obliterated both games after a very low snowball. And they're just personal mistakes that we all made.
Well, we were saying, there's definitely positives to take from these games, and just the improvement that we saw from game 1 to game 2 was pretty vast. So it was even though it was a snowbally game where they had control of the map and they were able to basically dictate the tempo of the game, you guys did show improvement, and you definitely have a shot at being a better team moving forward. So I appreciate your time, and GG. And I'm gonna move on to interviewing I think this is the top laner for A2O.
Yeah. What's up?
Okay. So we saw you play Maokai in both games.
Yep.
Was that a pick that you wanted to prioritize? Because we saw you hovering the Fiora, and then we saw the Fiora banned out on the side of Dream Team. Were you initially looking to play that Fiora, or was the Maokai planned out?
Looking to initially play it? No. We went into the game knowing that I think our solo mid laner and our bot lane and our jungler were like way stronger individually. So we didn't really have to win through topside and shed a snowball and wait for our team fighting. So there was no point for me to go for like a risky or like a 50-50 lane in the top lane. All I had to do is play Brenda and tank. The victory is kind of secure.
That makes sense. So what were comms like for you guys when you were discussing things like getting vision all over the map and discussing what kind of plays you guys were making? Because there was definitely a large amount of synergy on the side of your team. So I'm just curious as to what you guys were discussing as far as the plays that you were making and that teleport bot lane on the J4 flag.
I'll tackle what you said first about the vision. I think it was just playing around, who was shoved up where, how bot lane was looking, if they were strong, or if mid lane had an item spike, or if mid lane had, pressure because he won a trade, something like that, you know what I mean? So it was just based on, can we walk into their jungle and not get punished for it? Yeah. On that dive, we kind of effed up a little. We kind of wanted to put the Jarvan flag back a little, towards their tier 2, so we could corral both.
Grab aggro.
No. So we could corral the Trist and the Janna and get both of them. Okay. So we kind of effed up on that, but it's still fine. We got first turret and drag. But comms, I mean, people were just saying what they could do. Everybody was like, yeah, we can do that. It's pretty clean.
Do you guys have a designated shot caller, or was it just mainly like your team just kind of communicating with each other and discussing these plays?
As for a shot caller, I mean, most of the time it's either Powerful or Sindillion. And a lot of us usually, just chip in like we can do this, or I have this, and we can, press this advantage. Everybody just kind of, throwing ideas around, and But yeah, mostly Sindillion or Powerful makes calls early game. Late game, it's pretty much a team decision for the most part.
So how long has this team been playing together?
This team formed together. We played in Prophecy Cup. We formed like the last 2 weeks of Prophecy Cup, and with this roster, we haven't lost yet. In Prophecy Cup, we played one best of one BO2, and then we played just these 2 weeks. So like 3 weeks or so, 3-4 weeks maybe.
Okay.
Not that long.
But had you guys I assume the bot lane, being the duo queue that they are, have played for a while together with the corresponding names?
I think they came together around the same time we did. I don't think they had any prior experience. They're just, everybody just gets along really well.
Wow, everybody has like really good synergy for only being together for that long.
Yeah, I mean, everybody just gets along. We have, similar, times that we're going to be like online, play. So it works out pretty well.
So on that second game, when we saw the Gragas locked in, were you guys looking just to have a front line for that Twitch, or was that more of a disengage tool against the Lee Sin and the Kled?
A little bit of both, I think. But I think more than that, it's just Gragas is just a really strong pick in this meta. And Powerful is a really good jungler. And I think he, just getting him on like a playmaking jungler like that, who can just make a lot of plays in the early game, just pretty good. And those are just, added benefits.
Definitely. Well, man, I appreciate your time. Thanks for giving us the interview.
Yeah, no problem, dude.
GG's. Good luck to you guys moving forward, both of you. I wish you all the best, and thanks for letting us cast this. Appreciate it.
No problem, dude. Have a great night.
You too, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Good night.
GG Tails.
GG.